Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something pretty profound, a body of work that really challenges how we think about relationships, love, desire, the whole search for happiness.
We're looking at A Course in Miracles, and yeah, it presents a really radical, sometimes maybe uncomfortable view.
Definitely. So if you've ever felt let down by a relationship or just had that feeling that, I don't know, happiness is always just out of reach, this might resonate.
Right. The core idea we're exploring is that our problems, especially in relationships and connection, they aren't really out there. They start inside with a fundamental mix-up about who we think we are.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive then. Let's try to unpack that. We need to get clear on what the Course calls special relationships. That's kind of the world's way.
The usual approach.
Versus the holy relationship, which it presents as, well, the path to real truth. And a big part of this, something we really need to look at, is the role of the body, physical desire, sex. How does that fit into this spiritual picture?
It's crucial because it often gets tangled up in that search. We're essentially trying to figure out, how do you tell the difference between searching for happiness in, well, transactions versus finding real, lasting peace?
Right. Where do we start? Setting the stage.
Yeah, let's establish the framework. In this system, the physical world, it's secondary. The real action, the source of problems and solutions, is all in the mind. So we need to go right back to the beginning of the error, as the Course sees it.
Okay, so the Course says the root of all our problems isn't, the difficult boss or the messy breakup. It's something internal it calls the ego. What exactly is the ego here, in simple terms?
Well, stripped down, the ego is basically just a belief, a thought system. It's that core foundational idea that somehow we're separate from our source, separate from each other, that feeling of, I'm alone, I'm on my own.
And that sounds, terrifying. Because if you truly believe you've broken away from everything, wouldn't you feel instantly responsible for that? Like you did something wrong?
Exactly. That's the immediate psychological fallout. Believing in separation instantly generates this crushing burden of guilt.
Crushing burden. Wow.
And the Course is incredibly direct about what this guilt does. It says guilt is, and I quote, the sole cause of pain in any form.
Wait, the sole cause of any pain? That's huge.
It is. Think about it. All suffering, anxiety, illness, relationship problems, it traces it all back not to external stuff, but to this one internal belief in the guilt it produces.
Okay, that's a massive claim. But it kind of makes a weird sense when you look at how we operate. If we're carrying this invisible guilt, we'd spend all our energy trying to escape it, right? Or prove it's not true.
That's the trap. We try to fix the internal problem by, as you said earlier, rearranging the world's circumstances.
Yeah, looking for that perfect person.
Finding that special person who will make us happy. Or pouring energy into the body, how it looks, keeping it safe, chasing pleasure.
We're using worldly tools for a spiritual problem.
Precisely. Searching for wholeness outside the mind. Using material means to fix a non-material issue. And that's why it doesn't work.
And leads to disappointment and fear, because you're confusing the levels.
Exactly. The confusion of means and ends. The Course is clear. When you try to achieve spiritual connection using physical or material means, fear is inevitable. That external search just keeps the real problem, the separation belief, the guilt going.
Okay, so if this guilt is driving us, how does it show up in our relationships? This brings us to that term you mentioned, the special love relationship, the ego's answer to separation.
Yeah, and what's really interesting, or maybe disturbing, is how the ego approaches love. Since the ego is separation, its idea of love isn't about union. It's about, well, separation and exclusion.
How does that work? You pick one person.
You single out one person as special. And in doing that, you automatically define everyone else as not special. Maybe even as a threat to that specialness.
But hold on. When you fall in love, it feels amazing, right? Intense connection, passion. It doesn't feel like exclusion or hate. How does the Course square that?
It doesn't deny the intensity, but it looks underneath. The text is pretty blunt. It says the special relationship isn't really about getting rid of hate or fear. It's about trying to offset it, but not to let it go.
So, like pushing it underground?
Kind of. You take all that internal guilt and fear, and you focus it intensely onto this one bond. It becomes a defense, see? Someone loves me specially, so I can't be that bad, that guilty thing I secretly fear I am.
Ah, okay. That explains why these relationships can get so intense. Possessive, maybe? Demanding. Because you're putting this impossible weight on the other person.
You're asking them to fix your guilt. which they can't do.
And which makes the whole thing unstable.
Absolutely. The Course points out, look, if disillusionment is possible, it wasn't actually love in the first place. Love, true love, is constant. Special relationships, it says, are literally forged out of anger.
Forged out of anger, wow.
And dedicated to this insane belief that the more anger you invest outside yourself, the safer you become. It's like a setup to prove your internal issues belong out there, or that they disappear when you're with your special one.
Okay, let's bring in the body now. Physical intimacy, sex. That's often seen as the peak of the special relationship, right? If the root is fear and anger, how does that taint physical desire?
This is where major perceptual distortion happens, according to the Course. We all have this deep, real yearning for connection. For oneness, the text calls it the miracle impulse.
Okay.
But the ego immediately hijacks that impulse and confuses it with the physical urge, the confusion of miracle impulse with sexual impulse. We mistake the soul's hunger for union with the body's drive for contact.
So we use the body as a stand-in for real union. Physical closeness feels like oneness, but maybe it isn't.
That's the ego's trick, using the body as a substitute. And this is where the Course uses that ducat analogy, trying to find spiritual satisfaction through the body or the world. It's like being thirsty in a desert and just rearranging the sand, hoping to find water.
It won't work. You need to leave the desert.
Exactly. Redirect the impulse. Don't just change the external form.
You mentioned possession earlier, too. The text talks about a possession fallacy. Can you break that down for us?
Yeah, possession fallacy type 1. It's the ego's idea that security comes from owning or controlling the other person's body.
Owning their body.
Yeah. If I possess your body, maybe I control your love. And if I control your love, maybe I control my happiness, my safety. The Course points out how this gets really tangled up in psychosexual confusion. Ideas about possession versus being possessed linked to gender roles, driven by fear on both sides, fear of not being enough, fear of being controlled.
So it's not really about connection, it's about control hiding as passion, using the other person's body to manage your own inner fear.
That's the ego's agenda. But it's important here, the Course doesn't say the body itself is bad. It actually says because our spiritual sight, the real vision, is still so dim, love does need to be expressed through the body for a while.
Okay, so it has a purpose.
It has a function as a communication device. But the ultimate goal, the text says, is for the body to render itself unnecessary, to use it for communication so well that we realize we don't need it to be truly connected.
All right, so we've seen the trap of the special relationship, rooted in fear and exclusion. Let's talk about the way out, the holy relationship. Chapter 22 talks about the undoing of differences. What does that mean?
It's a huge shift. It means moving away from that selective special love.
Loving just one person.
Towards a universal love. Real love, in this view, has to be impersonal. Not cold, but universal. Seeing the same light, the same holiness in everyone equally.
Impersonal love. That sounds a bit detached, maybe. How do you have deep connection if it's impersonal?
That's the common reaction, isn't it? But impersonal here doesn't mean uncaring. It means non-special. It means you see the divine spark in everyone, without exception, including the person right next to you. The Course is pretty strict on this. You cannot enter into a real relationship with any of God's sons unless you love them all and equally.
Because singling one out
imposes guilt. Because you're basically saying everyone else isn't worthy of that same light. You're reinforcing separation.
So the whole function of the relationship changes. It's not about getting something anymore.
Exactly. The Holy Spirit, the voice for God in this system, takes that special relationship, which was based on getting, on limitation, maybe even attack, and transforms its purpose.
To what?
To pure extension, communication, using the body only as a way to share, to connect in truth, not to possess or limit. It's described as shifting a situation from, say, inappropriate sexual attraction, which is fear-based,
Right.
to impersonal miracle working, which is based on a shared holy purpose.
Okay, that sounds like a big leap. How do you actually do that? How do you make that shift in real life?
The main tool offered is something called the holy instant.
The holy instant.
Yeah. And it's not like hours of meditation. It's an instantaneous escape from guilt. A moment, maybe just a flash where you completely shift perspective. It lasts, as the text says, as long as it takes to reestablish perfect sanity, perfect peace, and perfect love for everyone, for God, and for yourself.
A flash of truth.
Where you let go of your interpretation and allow the Holy Spirit's purpose, connection, forgiveness to guide the interaction instead.
And what does it take to access that instant?
Well, that's the key. It requires surrender. You have to be willing to give over all your plans for how things should work, how you think you'll find happiness or fix the relationship, all those ego strategies.
You trade them in.
You trade them for God's plan, which is always just peace and union.
That letting go sounds like the hardest part.
It is. Because we're so invested in our own plans, it also changes how we relate to others' pain, like empathy. The ego uses empathy to kind of wallow with someone, right? To join in their suffering, which just makes the suffering seem more real and weakens both people.
Right, misery loves company.
Yeah. But when the Holy Spirit directs empathy, it's different. It's relating with strength. You see the error, the suffering, but you don't buy into its reality. You connect with the truth in the other person, offering peace, not pity. That leads to mutual gain. #tagoutro.
So, wrapping this up, this whole deep dive seems to boil down to a constant choice we're making, maybe moment by moment.
It really does.
You're always choosing between, essentially, total freedom, which the Course equates with union, that non-special love, peace, or total bondage, the special relationship trying to possess, carrying that guilt.
And making that choice for freedom consistently starts to change how you see everything. You begin to perceive what the text calls the real world.
The real world. Not quite heaven, but...
But a healed perception. Seeing the world, everyone in it, through forgiveness. Realizing nothing is truly hidden or fearful because it's all been forgiven in truth. And that healed way of seeing, that's the path towards knowledge, towards that ultimate state of love and union.
It comes back to that core conflict. The ego tells us we're small, we're lacking, we need to grasp and possess. The truth, this suggests, is that we're already grand, abundant, connected.
And the Course says littleness and grandeur can't coexist. One is real, one is an illusion we keep choosing.
Right. Littleness is the illusion.
So maybe the final thought for you, the listener, to chew on is this. Since littleness is just a belief, an illusion you hold on to, what's the one single step you need to take right now to just stop believing in it, to fully step into the grandeur that's already yours?
What does it take to relinquish that self-made system of guilt and seeking?
What would it mean to be willing, truly willing, to trade all your careful plans for finding happiness, for total peace instead?